Welcome to this week's video where we discuss and basically show you how to bestly set up your camera as a beginner, and this is how we set up our camera, our microphone, our lighting and so much more. If this is your first time here, I'm Dave from TVR Creators and I make weekly content on the best cameras for creators, gear, audio, sound, lighting, editing and so much more. If that sounds interesting to you, subscribe now. And let's crack on with this awesome tutorial. Yeah? So, first off, welcome to the studio. So imagine you've set up your video, you're all ready to go. You're thinking, right, I've got the camera, I've got my awesome mug, you know, check out the merch. Oh, yes. If you watch this on the replay, check out all our latest videos. Absolute value. I'm a bit claustrophobic, got loads of stuff going on. So basically, you're in the studio, you're ready to go, and you're thinking, right, the first thing you want to do is set up your tripod. Now, I'm not going to do that now because I don't have a lot of room, but it's pretty simple. You just let it up, work out, undo it slightly, make the tripod go up and down, make sure it go to the height that you want. And a little power tip I'll share you actually is just make sure the tripod is maybe just slightly above your head so the camera's looking down on you slightly, like this camera is in the minute, just because then it'll give a really nice camera angle, which is just, you know, just makes you look better on camera, looks a bit more professional and all that sort of jazz. So, you know, think about wherever you're filming, be your, you know, your garage, your studio, your attic, your basement, wherever you're filming. Doesn't matter if you're filming outdoors, the same principles will apply as we share in this tutorial. And the first thing I would share with you is just make sure the tripod is well secure and it's not falling down a hill and all that sort of jazz. Then I would get your camera, and this can actually go with a camera or phone. Today we're using the mirrorless Canon M50. There's links to this camera and all the gear we may be looking over today will be links to all this in the description. And I'm not going to go into this massive detail. We do have videos on this, so check them out. But basically, you've got your Canon, you've got your camera, you've got your phone, and you're thinking, right, the first thing I'm going to do is saw that out like that. I personally always put the strap over my neck because it's not a cheap camera. I don't want to break it. And then just take off the top of your tripod, undo the clip. And then a little power tip, actually, I would share. I personally prefer these screw-ons. I just find it more easier than the ones that wind up because they just, I don't know, they always feel a bit clunky. They don't always as fluid as I like them to be. So that's just something to bear in mind when buying a tripod. Cheap or expensive, it doesn't really matter. But I just prefer these. They just seem to be more, I don't know, it's all about the workflow and I'm all about making things as simple as possible. Something I would say then is attach the bottom, screw it in, make sure it's a metal one because you can get plastic ones as well. As I spit all over the microphone, lovely. Just gently do it, don't over screw it because you don't want to damage your phone or camera. And then there it is, it's all ready to go, it's attached. Now you can take it off your neck. You don't have to do that, but I just find it best practice. It's something I do all the time if I'm doing one of my videos. And then just gently attach it on. Make sure nothing's distracting you because you don't want to drop your phone or camera. I know it might sound obvious, but it's very easy to do. And here you go. So your camera is ready to go. These principles apply with whatever camera you're using, whatever phone you may use. Your tripod is always your best friend. This tripod is absolutely amazing. And what I like about it actually is if you just see it just slightly, it can pop open and become like a selfie stick. So that's really handy when you're walking around, running around and all that sort of jazz. Well, in a massive detail, you don't have to get a tripod like that. I just like that first. So like I said, you want to make sure it's slightly above your head, sort of like this. And that's just a good work of thumb, if you will. And as you can see how easy it is to screw in with a winder. I don't know, it's just a bit of a pain, but that's just my personal opinion. So I'm just, for easiness, I'm just going to bring this down a tad, so it's not literally on the ceiling. So going for mirrorless camera obviously depends on what camera you're using. You want to then attach your microphone. Now, for this particular model with the M50, I have found opening up the turn screen, facing at me, as you can see here. And that's basically, as a creator with your phone or camera, especially if you've got a camera that has a turn screen, just really handy, so you can see exactly what you're filming, so you don't have to film and then go back to the footage and see what's going on. Just makes filming so much more enjoyable. And for those of you in this modern era of social, I'm sure you'll agree, when you're doing, you know, a selfie, or you're recording yourself, I don't know, Instagram or whatever, it just makes it so much easier with that selfie screen. And the same thing applies when you're setting up your camera. So what I've then found with this particular model, and I found this with a lot of models, is then you just gently take off the cap. If you could say, well, why don't you just do that first anyway? Well, you could do, I guess. You could use the viewfinder on a Canon M50 camera like this. But I've just found, if you don't turn the screen and face at you, you may damage the cap, and that's something you don't want to do. That's something I have mentioned in previous videos. Something you don't want to do is damage your camera. Today we're just using just a small shotgun microphone, something special. This only cost me about £15–20, and it does pretty good audio. If you've watched any of our sort of edited videos, you'll see the audio is pretty good. And obviously you can spend as much as you want. Obviously, it generally be the more you spend on the microphone, the better the audio quality. But, this is perfectly good. It does have an internal microphone, so does your phone. But I've just found an external microphone, especially if you're filming outside, is a far better way to get audio and all that sort of jazz. Something I do actually, which I haven't done here, is just make sure that you've put the battery, because most microphones have batteries, make sure that's plugged in. Best practice thing is I always take the battery out afterwards when I'm not using it, so the battery lasts longer, and I can make batteries last longer in my workflow. Make sure it's turned on, which is very good. Obviously you can't see the green burn because no battery in this. But one little thing on this, you can actually increase the range that the microphone picks up the sound, which is pretty nifty. And that's something I won't worry too much about today, but something that a lot of microphones do have. Obviously see your microphone, see if it does have that. And as you see, we're pretty much ready to go on the camera front. I would also put it onto film mode on the top, just connect that. I don't know if you can see that. You can see that. Yep, so if we put this onto film mode, which it is, we're put onto film mode. And as you can see, the camera is very easy to use with a tripod, and it just makes it so much easier to use. You can be like, oh yes, and all this sort of jazz. And it makes it so much easier to set up your camera or phone. So, this principle just applies. So we've now got the microphone, it's all ready to go. The camera's all ready to go. On this particular lens, it does have a little clip, which we can just press gently, bring it out ready. On this one, it has a little click on it, so it's a very nice, satisfying click. And then you can just take off your lens, make sure you take off the lens cap. Otherwise, you're not going to be recording very much. But that's just a good word of thumb, and I sometimes just briefly look at it, make sure there's no marks on it. I was actually watching I'm not going to say what it was, but I was watching a professional documentary done the other day, and I noticed a few shots had some very obvious dots on the lens, which was clearly not done on purpose. So, you want to be above that when you're doing your audio, when you're doing your filming, and you don't want to make any little mistakes. I have done that in the past. It's very annoying, very hard to get rid of unless you're some sort of CGI expert or something. But for most of us, it's just very, very difficult to do anything with once you're in the editing or, post-production. So you don't want to worry about that down the road. So something then you want to then think about is lighting. We use an awesome softbox light. We've got two of them. I tend to only use one because my studio is not the biggest in the world. And a little power tip actually, if you can sort of see here, we've got a ring light here. I've actually turned the light on it way down, just to show you if you're interested. If I put it up to what it's supposed to be, it actually blurs out the camera. See what it does there? Because I'm just using a webcam, so it just looks really horrible. But by turning it down, you can see more clearly that is a ring light, and very good way of lighting yourself. And then from here, I would recommend, actually, I found this by accident, and then I watched tutorials on it afterwards. Excuse the reflection on my lens, we'll get to that in a moment. So if you're recording, I would personally, maybe not quite as close as that, imagine it's on full volume, and you would have it roughly to the side of the camera, maybe slightly more forward than that. Maybe you might want to put another light on the other side. And I find, and you'll know this, when you press record and then look at your editing afterwards, it looks really good. It has this really nice sort of auto-y focus on your face. It just looks really cool. You can maybe just use one light to make one side slightly darker, gives that sort of film effect, and that's a really good way to light your videos, or if you're doing photography. And something that you might want to think about if you just want to make it simpler with one light. If you're not wearing glasses like me, you could just have it straight in front of you and it is fine, and just try not to look at it because it might obviously just hurt your eyes or make you feel a bit like you're looking into a headlight, and you don't want that. So that's something to bear in mind, and that is the basic setup. I'm going to go into a bit more detail, so don't go anywhere. If you've only just joined us, smash the like button if you're getting value. Consider subscribing if you like more content like this. And check out our merch if you would like even more value. Absolute value. So some cool power tips to think about then. So light if you're wearing glasses, have it to the side of the glasses so you don't get this annoying reflection. You don't want that because it's just really off-putting for when you're editing, for your viewers. You don't want that. That's something to bear in mind. Perhaps have a spare battery. Actually, I forgot to put the SD card in. It is actually already in the camera. What size do you use? Put it in the comments below. What size SD card do you use when filming? I tend to just use a 32 gig extreme SD card. I'm perfectly happy with that. Sometimes on my M100, because I just use it for thumbnails mainly and an occasional bit of video, I just use a 16 gig, and that's more than fine. Because if you think about it, most of us, you're going to copy your video or photos onto your computer or laptop, etc., and then you can delete it once you've copied it over. Make sure you've copied it before you delete it. I tend to only delete it now and again, but the point is you don't need to get massive SD cards if you don't want to. So that saves you a bit of money, and that's a really cool power tip. Now, obviously, once you've got a mirrorless camera or an SLR, you can play around the settings, put it into manual mode, play with shutter speed, play with ISO and all that sort of jazz if you want to get that very particular look. A lot of cameras now have self mode, so they autofocus. They can autofocus on your face, giving that really cool like blur background if you've got enough distance behind you. Cameras like the M50 do that amazingly well without any messing around, and that's what I love about the mirrorless cameras now, because back in the day I used to use point and shoot cameras, which were very good, and what I like mainly about them is you just point, press record and go. And for a lot of us, we don't want to be messing around, especially unless you really know what you're doing. You don't want to be messing around with all the different settings, and you've made the auto white too high, or you've made the shutter speed too open, so you end up making it all fuzzy and all this sort of jazz, and making you look like some sort of like angel or something, which is nothing wrong with that, but unless that's a look you're going for, you could end up having a lot of wasted footage once you're learning, going along that learning curve. That's something to bear in mind. So if you just go into auto mode, point and shoot, off you go. And these sort of cameras, they do record in HD and 4K. They have a bit of a crop, and you can change the lenses on these. So depending on what you're filming, you can just take off the lens. I may even do that now on live TV. Let's see how daring I am. There you go. You can take off the lens. You can take off the lens. You can put an adapter, put a bigger lens on, or you can just get one specific for the camera, and you can get anyone you like. But I like the kit lens because it's 15 to 45, and I find that's really good. I'm just waiting for that satisfying click. Really good for recording video, in my personal opinion, and the quality of the mirrorless camera is absolutely brilliant. So if you have any questions, put them in the comments below. Hope you got value from today's video. We do have other videos, links in the description. I'll leave 2 end cards. Check out the end cards for more value. To find out more about cameras and the rest of it, I will leave 2 end cards for you. Hope you enjoy this content. Have an absolute great day, and as always, guys, I just want to say you guys rock. Let's do it together now. You guys rock. You guys rock. You guys rock.